Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Not bad. How are y'all? Good. I forgot to email you. A couple days ago, I looked over Commissioner McCormick's spreadsheet. I don't know if you had time to show it to anyone or look at it in more detail.
No, just those that were on the original email, so.
Okay. Yeah. It looks fine to me. I'm okay with it. I think we should be able to use it.
Awesome, okay. So do you want me to pull it up at the NSG portion?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
This is a lot more perspective. I just want to see. Just time to this or just to. So I do look.
No.
This is overall.
Wait a couple minutes, because I don't think we have
Okay, I'll try to wait more for
I will try not to be too disruptive if you're stuck.
Okay.
Apologies.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, sure, that's not. I'll have it. Something like this roughly double. So I guess roughly double. Is that all development or just?
Amy.
Oh, sorry, Amy.
That's okay.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How's your month been? Oh.
It's been interesting.
Yeah.
We need to say that. I think it's obviously there's substantial stuff going on.
You know,
Interesting is always better than boring.
well, it depends on the kind of interesting, but
Yeah.
you know, things have their ups and downs, but
Yeah.
it's okay. Did I, did I hear right that you were interested in,
Hi Priscilla, hi Kristen.
You know, the way I feel about that is it.
Hi.
All to it.
all right.
I would think that maybe other commissioners that have been around for longer might be interested or willing.
We'll see.
So,
I think, you know, the commissioners that have been around for longer are kind of in the minority right now. And I think, you know, the circumstances change, and I don't want to speak for either of them, but my impression is that they both said, you know, they both said last year that they didn't really have time. I don't get the impression that that's changed. Again, I don't know that for sure. I didn't want to speak for them.
So Commissioner Metzger might be joining us in person, so we might be waiting for her, but otherwise Commissioner Kunkel and Boateng are both online.
I had in my brain I was in the wrong place. Isn't that awful? I saw the information about the bike lanes and it was on Milton and something, and I thought, is this meeting in another place today? So,
And then,
hello, hi, how are you?
I'm doing all
Hi,
right.
how are you?
Good. We still can't make it.
I didn't bring my iPad, I just brought my paper. It's okay. Doing the old school stuff here. Hi, how are you?
Let me just, give me just a few seconds to, sorry, I should have got here 5 minutes earlier. Give me a few seconds to sign into my email so that I can pull up the agenda. I guess you don't actually have to do that anymore, do I?
I printed the agenda off.
Not the worst idea.
On a piece of paper.
Well, we have a couple people online, I think.
Okay, yep.
Are you gonna plug in your computer or use a flash drive, or what do you
I
think?
don't need to do it. We're just gonna share over Teams, if that's okay.
I think so.
All right, I'm ready to go if everyone else is.
Everyone hear us okay online?
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, so we will now call to order the September Flagstaff Sustainability Commission meeting. It's lovely to have you all here, both commissioners and both commissioners, staff, and guests. I'm really happy that I'm really happy that you're all here. First order of business is going to be roll call to make sure we have a quorum. Commissioners in person, when I call your name, you just say here or I. Commissioners online, unmute your microphones. And similarly, when I call your name, just say here or present or whatnot. So Chair White, present. Commissioner Mary Ellen Metzger.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Priscilla Boateng. Okay, Commissioner Boateng might not be here. Commissioner Kristen Conkle.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Quarshi. All right, I guess Commissioner Quarshi is not in right now. Commissioner Molly McCormick. Okay. Commissioner Wolkowinski.
Here.
All right, so we just barely have a quorum of 4 people, so we can proceed. Next order of business is our land acknowledgement. The Sustainability Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. All right. Next order of business is public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the Commission on any subject within the Commission's jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the Commission on that day. Due to open meeting laws, the Commission cannot discuss or act upon items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the Commission on an item on the agenda, if you're in person, then please just, excuse me, if you're to address the Commission on an item that is on the agenda, then wait until that agenda item comes up. And then if you're in person, just raise your hand. If you're online, then raise your hand virtually, and the chair will call on you when it's time. That said, is there any public comment upon on items that are not on the agenda right now, either in person or virtually? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Next item is the approval of last month's minutes. Did any commissioners present have a chance to look through last month's minutes, and if so, are there any comments? All
I thought
right.
they looked great.
All right. I concur. Do we have a motion to approve our August minutes?
I move to approve the August minutes.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Metzger to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Wolkowinski. Is there any discussion on the vote that's on the table? All right, seeing none, we will bring the motion to a vote. All in favor of approving the August commission minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say
Aye.
no. All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. All right, so next up is, and this is something I'm quite pleased to have here, that we've been waiting to have this arranged for a minute, and we're really happy to have these guests here. We're going to be discussing Oh, sorry, my apologies. I skipped over the sustainability division updates. My apologies, Jenny Neiman, but Jenny, the floor is yours.
Hi there, folks. I'm really sorry that I can't be there in person. I really wanted to be today, but do not want to get anyone sick. I'm going to be talking about the Sustainability Division report fairly quickly, but first, I actually would like to introduce a new team member on our team. That team member is Bella Bowman. Bella, do you mind saying hi and introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Bella and I'm the new Youth Climate Leadership Vista at the Sustainability Office, and I'm really excited to be chatting with you guys today.
Thank you so much, Bella. So Bella is had moved to Flagstaff from Maryland, my home state, actually, in July, right, Bella? Yeah, so we're thrilled to have her. This is our longest standing Climate Vista position and works primarily with students to take climate action. So they coordinate our Youth Climate Advisory Group, our Youth Climate Summit activities. Bella is going to be changing some things up this year to make us more effective with engaging with youth, and we're just really thrilled to have her. Thanks for being here, Bella. All right, so in terms of our August 2023 monthly report, Tia, do you mind zooming in on that? And I also can take the screen too, whatever is easy for you. Okay, you're the best. Perfect. So one of the biggest highlights, and I'm really thrilled about this, is we launched our flood grant program. This flood grant was a coordination effort by a number of different divisions, particularly with the stormwater team in water services. And this is really where we are providing flood grants for flood materials. We know we have a lot of neighborhoods that are affected by post-fire flooding in Flagstaff. And so we launched our flood grant program. We actually already went through the first round of applications. We did get a lot of interest. And, you know, we did have commissioners help us, as well as folks from the Equity Advisory Group and community members help us to make that application more accessible, really advise us on the kind of outreach strategy, et cetera, to make sure that we're, you know, reaching the folks who need it. So just a big thank you to the commission for their work there. Our Sonoma Boynton, who was our stream steward coordinator, another AmeriCorps position, led our watershed cleanup series this year. There were, I think, 4 cleanups over the summer. They're really incredible. This is just one picture. And, you know, we got 600 gallons of debris, right, in just one cleanup. So it's been a really incredible partnership with Stormwater as well as with community members, volunteers from across the spectrum, really. So we're really thrilled that we had this. We will be having another one next summer. If you can scroll down, Tia, thank you so much. So in August, we had our climate resilience project. They were involved in the watershed cleanup series. We also have teamed this semester with a climate science and solutions program class. So that's John Fegge Pharisees class in that graduate program. They're going to be developing a Flagstaff Equity Atlas that really maps sort of what assets do we have in town, where are the kind of demographics as we think about vulnerabilities for climate change, and where are kind of our opportunities for improvement. They will go to City Council in December, so we've launched that basically last month. In terms of equity and engagement, it looks like we've engaged with about 85 people in August. Our equity advisory group has started moving forward. They are really interested in downtown and working on making downtown a little bit more car-free. Maybe that's, you know, a little bit maybe that's once a month, right? They're really interested in working with the Downtown Business Alliance, who we're here to talk about today, and kind of just having conversations of what might it look like for our downtown to maybe close the street. I'm really happy to say our downtown folks are already there and already thinking about all these things, and you'll hear about that later today. In terms of building fuel switching and reducing energy use, we have a really exciting update, which is that we launched our energy and water conservation project. Danae Pressler on the climate team leads this. This is a $4.4 million investment in the city's facilities. The city has more than 30 buildings. Well, city has a lot of buildings. More than 30 buildings will be worked on. It will be weatherized, right? So we're increasing energy efficiency. We're doing a lot of light switch outs, etc. This project is projected to save the city over $300,000 annually in money. The home weatherization program closed its fiscal year and it had distributed over $100,000 to residents to support energy and efficiency and electrification. On transportation, you're going to hear about transportation. Today, we are working on just reviewing our code to help implement the Active Transportation Master Plan. Next page, please, Tia. Next on housing, we're collaborating a lot with housing. We have a ADU survey out now. We were actually ahead of schedule there. I will put the link to that in the chat, but the idea here is we want to hear from our community members on ADUs. Have you had a barrier to building an ADU? Were you not able to build one? Did you build one? And just learning about how ADUs are really kind of being built or not in the community. Our neighborhood engagement and volunteer services team is doing incredible. They supported 5 cleanups with, over 100 people in August. Here's some pictures there of that. We're just really thrilled that we can support community members in cleaning up our community. Next page, please. Stream stewards, again, I already touched on this.
You don't have to do all of it, Jenny.
Okay, I know. I was just gonna get down to the volunteerism policy just because I think it's important. We are trying to support our City of Flagstaff employees with their volunteerism policy. All right.
Thank you, Jenny.
Of course. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny. And what was it, Bella?
Yes.
Yeah, Bella, we're very pleased to have you on the team.
That's an ADU. I'm sorry. She went right through that.
Yeah, accessory dwelling unit. And I did just send an email out earlier today that has a lot more information about that survey too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yep. Casitas, backyard houses. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All
Thank
right,
you, folks.
Thanks very much, Jenny. All right. So yeah, sorry for almost skipping over that for a moment ago, but now it's time for a presentation on the project to basically renovate the intersection of 4th and Butler Avenue. And forgive me if I mispronounce it. Is it Jeremy DeGator or DeGator? DeGator. Thank you. So we have Jeremy DeGator and come to do a presentation on that. So Jeremy, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jeremy DeGator. I'm a project manager in the capital improvements section here at the City of Flagstaff. And on behalf of the entire project team, we're excited to be here today to let people know what we've been working on for the last many, many months to get us to this point today. I've been in Flagstaff myself personally for about 13 years. I moved out here with my wife and kids back in 2010. So I have raised my kids both from preschool all the way through high school here in this town and have been truly honored to have had that privilege. And I'm really proud that I get to work for the city to move projects like this forward. And I'm excited to be here today. And I'll let Nick, who's with our engineering design consultant, Burgess and Knightful, introduce himself.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Nick Hall. I'm the project manager for this project on the consultant side, so Jeremy's counterpart. I work for Burgess and Knightful. I am the Flagstaff office manager for the company. I am project manager. I currently live out in Timberline. Have been up here full time for about 4 years now, but on and off since about 2012, I'd say. I went to ASU and NAU. I have been a licensed professional engineer for 5 years and a road safety professional for the same amount of time. I focus on roadway design in its whole entirety. I've always looked at what's within a corridor, look at all users. I found a passion in roadway safety, and that's kind of led into a large realm of driver behavior and EMS and medical services beyond, and education, and what can we do to make a road really safe. Our company, B&N, we've been around since 1912 in Ohio is where we started. We've been in Arizona with our Phoenix office since 1984. And thank you for having us.
All right, so we're going to do our best to kind of walk through this pretty quickly. I know that Tia shared the draft presentation. There have been changes since what was sent out. So we're just going to kind of walk through the project background, what got us here, what are our goals, what are we really working for, and then we're going to kind of walk through all the things that we've been working on. We are not in design at this point. So everything is extremely preliminary. So you're going to see a lot of exhibits, you're going to see lines on paper, but these are conceptual exhibits at this point. So they are meant to convey like number of lanes, but the actual geometry is entirely subject to change. So please keep that in mind as we move forward. At the end of this effort, we will be asking for the commissioners to help us rank the alternatives. You'll see staff prefers alternative, and then we'll give you the opportunity to both provide your own personal ranking and any comments that you would like to accompany. We're going to be compiling all this stuff. We're going to a long list of commissions. We'll be holding a public town hall meeting October 18th at the Aquaplex, which we would invite anyone to attend to participate in the process. But we'll be taking the culmination of this effort to City Council in early November and hoping to get direction on what the future of this project will be. Project limits. This project is essentially located on Butler Avenue. It starts at the Little America property near the I-40 interchange, proceeds to the east, tying into the widened section that you see when you go up the hill towards Sonoma Heights. This does also go north on 4th Street, tying into some point south of Sparrow Avenue, continuing that complete street, fully developed section down through the Butler Avenue intersection to a point south that intersection. We will also be improving the Harold Ranch Road intersection as well. A little bit about why we're here today. So this was actually, historically was 2 projects. So it was known as Butler Avenue widening, and it was also the Butler 4th Street intersection improvement projects. We combined these into one project, and that kind of defined this overall project limits. At its basis, this project will be widening the existing single lane in each direction, so 2-lane section to a 4-lane section, so 2 travel lanes in each direction with a center median. So access control is going to be important. It is funded by the old transportation tax, which was passed back in 2000, and it was in effect for 20 years. And then the new transportation tax, which was renewed in 2018 and became effective in 2020. And then there are developer contributions that are also part of the funding to pay for this. So developers, as you probably, if you've driven this corridor over the last several years, you've noticed development has been quite active. And instead of those developers actually building improvements that we would tear out and replace, they actually make a cash contribution to the city, and we build those improvements across their frontage. So that is a significant portion of the funding for this project. One thing we won't spend a lot of time on, but the Butler Avenue and Harold Ranch Road intersection is slated to become a roundabout, and this is driven primarily by that center median that I mentioned. So we're going to be restricting, effectively, we call it access control. So in the case of Little America's truck stop, trucks will no longer be able to make left turns out of that parking lot. If you've driven through there, you're familiar with all the gymnastics that go on there involving large vehicles. They will have to make a right turn. They will go east to where Harold Ranch Road. There will be a roundabout, which will allow a U-turn and allow them to get back to the interstate to go their respective paths. Primarily, what we've been working on has been the Butler 4th intersection, and you're gonna hear a bit about all the different alternatives that we have evaluated. And currently, we are in the scoping/outreach phase. So we have not gone into design. So our intent here is to have all the conversations about what this project should look like. We've had a pretty diverse project team. We've had sustainability, we've had our multimodal planners, we've had our traffic, we've had parks, water services, we've had Mountain Line. All of these stakeholders have been in the room while we've been figuring all of this stuff out. And so this is the time that we encourage feedback to help us shape what this project is going to look like. Project background. So A lot of what's driving the need for this project is upcoming and ongoing development. So it's hard to kind of decipher this, but the green area is effectively areas that have already been developed. The orange or other shaded are either in development or in the pipeline development. And they are significant. So you've probably seen all the activity that's been happening over the last several years along this corridor, and they will have a pretty significant impact to that entire character of that corridor in the upcoming years. For example, the salmon shaded pink that you see on the southwest corner of Butler and 4th is the Canyon Del Rio development, and this is quite large. This is roughly 1,500 homes, townhomes, and apartments. So to put that in perspective, this is roughly equal to another country club, or like 2 Cheshires at Liberty. So it's significant. This will be a bit denser than what we have there, but it's a significant development. And this is just one, it's a primary development. There's also a retail component there. There's a significant retail, which is roughly equal to about 3 of the Fry's shopping center areas over there on Schweitzer. So there is a lot in the pipeline that will be coming online over the next several years. Our project goals. Very early on, when we did our initial project charter, which really defines what the project is all about, what we're striving to do, is really boils down to us improving facilities for all modes and all users of this corridor. This process is informed by a number of plans, or a number of policies and goals, which include the regional plan, the carbon neutrality plan, the active transportation master plan, and of course, Metro Mountain Lines Flagstaff in Motion plan. And it really is driven by this underlying safety.
So on that note, again, what our firm really puts into place and why we enjoy being here helping with this project is safety is paramount to us. That it's stated by the city, the interest in Vision Zero, which I believe has been used and is becoming more of a commonplace term. But basically the premise is that 0 deaths that's the only acceptable level is 0. In the past, way back in time, especially in construction, we actually budgeted for deaths on job site, and like there would be so many fatalities through this. It's 0. That's what our goal is, not so many percent per capita. The goal is 0 deaths. Part of Vision Zero and why everyone's adapting it now, and what we use to achieve this is part of the safe systems approach. It looks at one very big piece is that people make mistakes. That whether it be drivers, pedestrians, whoever, it doesn't matter the mode, but people make mistakes. That we need to be putting out. The safe systems is redundancy. So if one thing fails, that doesn't mean a fatality is going to happen. That there's something else to help. So there's all these different aspects that we try and use multifaceted approaches to make sure that safety is, again, achieved and really preventing fatalities and major crashes, severe injuries. That's the goal of Vision Zero. Another primary piece that we'll be demonstrating with what's going to happen with the project that's, again, part of the safe systems approach, Vision Zero, is separation of time and space for different energy levels. So we hear this a lot, and just primarily looking at vehicles, pedestrians, bicycles, that having them not occupy the same space, that's kind of the easy start of that's safer. The further we can get them apart physically, that's more safe. That's part of the leading concept into it. So we'll be talking more on that, and yeah.
And the other primary component is just reducing speeds.
Yes.
So we know that at higher speeds we have worse outcomes. And so it really is, what can we do? What are the treatments that can be applied that will overall reduce speed so that when something bad happens, the outcomes are less severe. And that is a primary underlying tenet for all of this stuff that we look at. So I want to recognize where we started. So this is an engineering standard. This is a cross-section of a typical arterial road, which both Butler and 4th Street are arterial roadways. They are also truck routes. So they are heavily traveled. They will continue to be heavily traveled in the future. This is our starting point. We recognized even before we started this process that, the current state of where we are as a community, that this isn't necessarily in line with this. And so just to walk you through what we have here, this essentially has a 6-foot sidewalk separated with a 5-foot parkway, which is just a space and furnishing it maybe landscaped or not. There's an on-street bike lane, and then there's two 12-foot travel lanes with the center median, so that could be landscaped or it's room for left turns, and that's just mirrored on the opposite side. What we did here is we took, as Nick said, that time and space, we've now taken the on-street bike lane and moved it off-street. So we now have, on either side, we have it's effectively a full width, it's 11 feet wide, 6 feet is sidewalk, 5 feet is a directional bike lane on either side of the street, which has that 5-foot parkway buffer. There's two 11-foot travel lanes, so we've taken a foot off of each travel lane there. We still have the center median, and then that repeats on either side. This is a significant improvement for supporting active transportation master plan, carbon neutrality considerations, and so on.
I would just add that, as Jeremy mentioned with the lanes, that wider lanes usually increase speeds. It was found over time that these nice large parkways that were built that are 14-foot lanes, well, people can go really fast on them. So making them smaller, narrower, not to the point of trying to promote actually colliding with vehicles, that's also bad. But what's the smallest, safest lane we can do that drivers feel a little more confined, and maybe I should go a little bit slower and have that conscious thought.
So this just zooms in on that separated bike lane and sidewalk. As you can see, we've got 6 feet for the sidewalk, 5 feet for the bike lane, which is directional. Again, we've got all users along the corridor, right? That's what this graphic shows. We've got the comfortable users, we've all the way down to the people that are more cautious and unsure. And really, this is intended to serve all of those different modes and give them facilities that meet their needs. At the intersections, we'll talk more about this. We will have protected intersection crossings. And this is, you've probably seen around town, this is the green striping that kind of complements the white striping for pedestrians and so on. As we mentioned, a lot of those features, narrower lanes, landscaping both in the median and the parkway, these all serve to slow traffic down. And this is the graphic that we're seeing here. This is from a Vision Zero. And the numbers that you're seeing there are the speed at which that vehicle is going when the collision happens. It's not necessarily the posted speed limit. And so, right, I think we all know this, that speed matters, especially when we're talking about large vehicles and things like that. So we make a dramatic difference when we go from 40 miles an hour down to 20 miles an hour. And that has been honestly a guiding principle for our team as we've evaluated our options.
Okay. So to start, some of the features moving through the corridor. This is zoomed in. I apologize, it doesn't have more context to this actual location, but this is between the Little America Sinclair truck stop and the overnight truck parking. So in that corridor to the west near I-40. It's also close to the paired bus stops. This is where we wanted to have an enhanced mid-block crossing for all the pedestrian traffic that does cross at this location. So this will serve both the transit users and the truck drivers with the overnight parking in between the facilities. It's going to be very similar to a lot of what we see around town. We're going to have the rapid flashing beacons set up at these locations. They will also be the accessible versions, which is what everything is moving to nowadays, but the extended time for users needing additional time to get across, the actual tactile arrow to feel on the signal, all current standard and above. And as Jeremy mentioned, the kind of brown shown there is that raised median that will exist in the future in that corridor to prevent those left turns out crossing across the road. Okay. The next two slides, we want to show the FUTS or FUTS connectivity and what's changing as part of this project. This is the current network that we see out there, and this is almost pretty much similar to the project limits you saw earlier, but our project area is ride with caution, and that's really not a great level for users out there. As part of this project, the green you can see here is the improvements of adding that off-street bike lane, so, or the bike facility off-street. It does go up to the interchange, and past there is still the ride with caution. Okay. On this next graphic here, showing the project limits again, these are, we want to focus on the transit opportunities for this project. Not opportunities, but what will be done, really. The green paired bus stop is the existing stops along this corridor. We'll also be adding a paired bus stop at Peak Point intersection as that's being built. And at Butler 4th, there will be a total of 4 stops, a paired on the west side of the intersection and then a north and south side for north and southbound. The crossings in here, the proposed ped bike crossings, these are all the enhanced crossings. Every single one of these will have the rapid flashing beacons and the enhancements for crossing. They will not just be a crosswalk at these locations.
And we work closely with Mountain Line to ensure that this meets both their current operational needs and their future needs as this corridor builds out. All right, I guess that wasn't really. So as I mentioned, we spent a lot of time evaluating different alternatives, particularly at this Butler 4th intersection. That's really what has driven the large majority of the conversation of what this project is going to be. We started off with a smaller number. It grew. We evaluated as we moved forward. We found out what we didn't know that we didn't know, and we went back and looked at those. And we had a lot of good conversations about what this could look like, what this couldn't look like, and everything in between.
So there were several steps that took us to this point, and I'll just cover this in brief. That we built up to a total of 11 different alternatives to look at. We were able to take that down to about 3, and at that point with the project team, we had developed a long list of different criteria to look at of how do these perform, how do they compare, vehicles, pedestrians, everything in there that we can look at, and we'll be getting into that actual criteria as we move forward. But just letting you know that we came down to 3, and ultimately the project team did select a preferred alternative to present to you today. Again, reminding of the project team, we had engineering, transportation, Martin Ince was in there. Jenny's been a part of the process the whole time. We've had this multidisciplinary representation to voice the different needs of this project and for the different users. And that's what we've been trying to evaluate this entire time with the project, not just from an engineering standpoint. So to start going into some of the alternatives, the first 2 we're going to show are not necessarily ones that made it to the final 3 cut, but what we're looking at as part of this project, it's basically signalized or a roundabout is the primary difference, and then size from that point. We are looking at construction phasing and time that can a smaller version be built and then added on into the future, and we are committed to see what that timeline would be for this project. But with these 2 alternatives, they currently they do not meet city standards, so they did not make it to the cut for the final 3. But again, they may be phased in. You'll see into those 3 one day.
And we will not have answers to the phasing questions today, but we will have answers by the time that we reach City Council in November. So we'll be able to speak to those options.
And then just for nomenclature's sakes, that you'll see for the signalized intersections, we used a number by number, and this just relates to the width in lanes, so vehicle lanes. So this 5x5 has basically 5 lanes, north and south and east and west. So benefits of this one was it was the smallest intersection footprint of all the alternatives. There's reduced pedestrian and bike crossing lengths because of the size. And with every one of these alternatives, we did employ protected intersection features that we'll go into in detail coming up of what exactly does that mean of the little treatments to make it a protected intersection. Drawbacks was the queuing lengths for vehicles, and then the significant delays that did not meet the city standard. Another one in the same spot was this 2x2 roundabout. So just 2 circulating lanes across the whole roundabout. Pros, reduced crossing lengths for pedestrians and reduced likelihood of high severity crashes. This is true for both of the roundabout options. You'll see that with roundabouts, we can actually use engineering design to geometrically force vehicles to slow down. That if you allow them to come straight at it and can go right through it, then yes, people will speed. But we can actually look at, by moving them, bringing them back, that we can make a 15 to 20 mile per hour entrance speed. And that's, as we showed earlier, a lot better than 30, 40, or even more so if someone may be running a red light at 45, 50. So Cons on this one, the increased low severity crashes. Roundabouts help reduce fatalities and high severity, but they do increase fender benders and what we call property damage crashes. So people still get upset, but they're not going to a hospital or worse. Also, the significant delays on this did not meet city standard. That does take us into the 3 alternatives that made it to the final round, you could say. So this is the largest one, going from smallest to largest, bookends of it. This is 7 lanes wide in both directions. So this was shown to meet the level of service standards, or the delay really. I won't go into too many of what lanes are going which directions, but again, the 2 through in all directions because of the 4-lane corridor. Here I will zoom in though and talk about, well, what are the protected intersection features that we will be using no matter which alternative ultimately makes it through. So one, the kind of maroon area, this is a truck apron that's still going to be raised, most likely concrete, that passenger vehicles will not want to occupy. It would not be a fun ride over it, but it does allow a semi-truck trailer to come over. This does ultimately bring the curve down to a smaller amount so people can't make right turns as fast. So it's not a big sweeping right like some of the intersections we've seen in the past. The green area is a bicycle waiting area for when it's time to cross. We have the crosswalks for both pedestrians and the bicycle users coming across. And there also the pedestrian waiting area across the bike path to proceed across the intersection. So these are what make it a protected intersection and allow for kind of that continuous bike path around the intersection, the tighter curves, and offering those waiting areas. The second alternative was the 6x6 intersection, so 1 lane smaller than the 7x7. You can see it in here. We'll come up to later that we do look at overall pedestrian crossing length, and one of the challenges we did face that you'll see on this one, that the 7x7 and 6x6 are the same overall in the worst condition because of how the through lanes line up and the dual lefts. You can see there's these closed lanes on the north side and on the east side. There really is wasted space and an additional pedestrian crossing area. That's so the lanes line up across the intersection, unfortunately. All right, the third alternative, alternative C, is again a 2x2 roundabout, but now the difference is there is a channelized right turn lane on all 4 corners. So this allows the right turns to get out of the circulating traffic and make a right. Something to note on this one, I don't think it shows it zoom on the next slide. So actually it does, I'll zoom in, it's a little bit easier to see. So on this kind of northbound right here, it will be a yield condition. It won't be just a free flow coming around. And as Jeremy pointed out earlier, these are preliminary designs. We're going to work to tighten that up as much as possible. So it's ideally it'd be a T intersection, but there's going to be some slight angle to it still. But we want people to come up, basically have to stop and look to make sure it's clear both for pedestrians and for vehicles, then proceed. And again, we have the dedicated pedestrian and bicycle crossings for the roundabout as well. One thing to note here that it slightly comes up later, but this is probably the best time to talk about it, is the crossing experience as a pedestrian at a roundabout versus the signal. That based on when you approach a signal, it may have just changed and you're waiting for a whole nother cycle before it gives you the walk signal to come across. Here there will be the rapid flashing beacons again that will light up and alert traffic that you're trying to cross. So maybe the first car does or doesn't stop, maybe the second one stops, but it will be, that it could theoretically be a lot shorter time frame than waiting for a full cycle of the signal and then being able to proceed through each leg of this.
And inherently, crossings at roundabouts are different from signals, right? They're just a different experience in the sense that you have to be a more active participant when crossing in a roundabout. And that presents both safety opportunities and safety challenges because roundabouts have historically presented challenge for some of our visually impaired community and things like that are not able to safely judge whether or not it's safe to cross because we don't bring traffic fully to a stop. historically, roundabouts have not signalized crossings. And so both for a signalized intersection, which has these protected intersection treatments, and these roundabouts, which have protected intersection, we are committed to doing what we're calling the gold standard of either a signalized intersection or a roundabout. And so at roundabouts, there will be signals that will signal to drivers that there's a pedestrian present, and they will stop. These will incorporate those accessible features. So for someone who can't see, it will notify them that the lights are activated and the crossing is activated.
If I can ask a question, a follow-up question about that. Is there any research that you've seen as to how many accidents involving pedestrians there are for the system that we're talking about here, where the pedestrian pushes a button and then that, it starts a yellow flashing light, versus say a fully signalized crossing or other methods?
I don't, do you?
Unfortunately, a lot of it's so new, and especially as Jeremy mentioned, with the rapid flashing beacons and also the hawk signals that we can use, that's like on West Route 66. Those are now required under the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. So those are just now officially coming in, so it is very new. From our company standpoint, there is a roundabout that was installed that's roughly the same size, the two circulating lanes in all directions. That is a heavy trail use, I believe, is what I was told. And in the last 3 years, there have been 0 pedestrian crashes at all. There have been a couple bike, not severe, but on that roundabout, the bike lanes or the bikes had the option to come off the road or circulate with traffic. And that was the issue that in industry we have seen, that if you can get bicycles out of the lane in the roundabout, that's a lot safer that we've seen.
Yeah, as a frequent cyclist, I can definitely imagine that. That answers my question. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're going to start going into the matrix that we use to rank these. There was 7 categories that had a lot of different subcategories within them. There's a few we're going to go into detail today. Some I'll just talk on what was included in that category, just because I think we had an overall 73 criteria maybe, so there was a lot to it. So starting with the vehicular operations, this included, well, as it says, vehicular, delay for vehicles, level of service. We did look at, actually, I think we do go into detail on this one too. Sorry, my bad. So this one, we do show all the detail to it. So these are all the subcategories that included. Level of service is pulled from delay, just the time it takes to come up to the intersection and proceed. We did look at VMT and VHT. A disclaimer to this, and as you can see from the chart here too, that there's only 2 values for this. That using the regional model up here, it doesn't go down to the minute detail of intersections, but it looks at between intersections. It's the overall model, macro sized. So we could look at, if we do the project or we don't do the project, what does that do to VMT, VHT? And there was a slight reduction of both with building building this project.
But it's focused on the corridor and not so much on the actual improvements that we're making along the edges there with the separated bike lanes and separated sidewalk.
I'll dive into that a little bit more. Sorry, thank you, Jeremy. That we would expect a higher reduction actually from what we're doing with this project with the separated bike lanes, but the model is useful in helping us inform on this piece, that it does look so far as between where people are going, what are attracting to each location, work or other sites, and it does unfortunately look at the narrowest pipe in the network. So with the still existing section at the interchange that's not as comfortable as the section we're building, it does not have as great of an improvement. So that's what throttles it down, I guess.
And you're estimating that the VMT will decrease because of increased pedestrian and bike use?
Yes.
Okay.
Something we look at too that we just want to be cautious of, that this helps inform us too, is induced demand, that by widening this road, are we now bringing more cars over to the Butler corridor from 66 or 40 maybe? And this helps show us that if there was an increase, we'd be more concerned of, hey, what's happening? Oh, it might be that, so we need to look at it. But that's a nice part of the model. It does look at everything in the city, so it'll tell us if people start moving to a different route or not. And we did see slight decrease, so that was a good sign for us.
If I can ask a question while we're still on this chart.
Yes.
I noticed that the, excuse me, the roundabout is listed as having a dramatically lower CO2 emission rate than the other alternatives. And I wonder if you could talk to that in a little bit more detail and
Yes.
also talk about whether you're including just the route, like the cars in the roundabout, or is that like addressing the system holistically?
So I'll talk on that, and also with the roundabout having the highest NOx actually as well. It's kind of strange that those are inverse on that. I'll talk on those. These calculations here did look at the intersection itself, so it is not inclusive of the corridor for these values in this piece here. Jenny has asked several questions along the way, and we've been supplying as much information as we can. And what we've all pulled as part of this, that the modeling software does account for every vehicle that can get through. So even if a car has a green light, doesn't stop, it still accounts for it. So it does take into account more vehicles at higher efficiency versus less vehicles also stopping, and where that balance is. So it does account for every vehicle that doesn't stop and does stop, or the slowing down. So with the roundabout, there's that higher efficiency that less traffic has to come to a complete stop. That with the signal, that I don't know if you'd say it's almost guaranteed, this does look at the peak hour, that vehicles are stopping and then idling down and then going all the way back up from a stop condition at the intersection. So that's where the reduced CO comes from for the roundabout. But the increased NOx, we had to do quite a bit of research on that and see, why is this program actually telling us? And I thought the roundabout was the greatest thing, like why is this increased here? And that has to accounts for lower speed and inefficiencies of semi-trucks is what we found, that it was the kind of diesel lower speeds. And part of that too that came up throughout this process of, well, what vehicles are we assuming in here? That is this today, is it these 1980s, is it future? And what we found is it's roughly current day vehicles. This does not account for alternative vehicles, and what the guidance is from this modeling software is not to necessarily, this will be the number in the future, but more so use it to compare the ratios. This one's twice as much as this is 10% worse than here. So the relationships between the outputs is what is told to be the guiding factor.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you very much.
And it's important to recognize that these are tied primarily to vehicle delay. That's what it just boils down to.
Right.
And so it's important to understand what they tell us and what they don't, right? Because they don't tell us everything. They're relatively limited data points, but they're tied to vehicle delay.
Thanks very much.
And then the very last piece on here was the driver expectation, just the different complexities of the intersection. Ultimately, this was the score we gave to these, with 1 being poorest, 5 being the best, allowable points, you could say, for these categories. Okay, how much time do we have? Okay. Going back to here, we'll quickly go over the next two. Truck circulation was looking at the amounts of stops, familiarity, how easy is it to maneuver a semi-truck through here. The roundabout scoring the highest that they can maneuver through. Something to note for the group here that a new state law coming into effect. Semi-trucks can take both lanes in a roundabout now. They're legally allowed to, and passenger vehicles must yield to semi-trucks.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a part of this as well. But
And that is a change, but that's also reflective of reality as far as what's actually happening out there today. And it actually provides us probably more benefits than cons, in the fact that it allows us to make the roundabouts smaller, which will help keep speeds down. When we have to keep a truck in one single lane all the way around, that dramatically increases the size of the roundabout. And Also tied to that is speed, because it's larger, it feels more comfortable to go fast.
But you think that the trucks are going to want to drive on the inner lane? Now they're gonna be happy that they don't have to drive on the outer lane, they can't drive on the inner lane?
They will take both lanes.
They'll take both lanes at the same time. Yes.
Correct.
The whole roundabout will be theirs.
There you go, I get it.
Which is what's happening, but now it will be a legal maneuver.
For transit accommodation, working closely with Mountain Lion here, that one of the primary factors here was for the eastbound bus stop. How easily can they get over to make a northbound left? That the larger the intersection, that's, I think it was, 4 or 5 lanes they need to get across in a short distance. It's very difficult. That's why the 7x7 received a 1. The others were really about a 3 across the board here. All right, pedestrian bike circulation. We'll go into detail on this one. So there were 2 pieces to this, and scoring's a little bit interesting on this, and we'll go into detail. That for pedestrian bike comfort, it was derived that really anything over a larger than 5 lanes really would score poor in this. That it's just large for the crossing amount, so it's poor across the board, and as well as the existing condition out there you're all probably pretty familiar with. It's a little interesting out there right now. So for ADA accessibility, as we showed earlier, that really this will have, and as Jeremy pointed out, the gold standard of treatments that what's available to us to use, we're going to be using out there for all of our users to make it across safely and come down the corridor safely too. Category scores in here, you can see the difference. The only reason the 6x6 received a 3 in here is because it is smaller than the 7x7. It was felt that it should receive at least a point more being smaller and have some differentiation between the 7x7. Okay. That takes us down to the predicted crash frequency. Here, again, looking at the no-build conditions, the worst, the 7x7, 6x6 were about middle field in here. We did consider vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, predictive crashes. The roundabout, as we mentioned earlier, really reduces the fatal and some more severe crashes. So it did score a 4 in this category. And one piece I do want to note quickly, as Jeremy pointed out with the trucks and the lanes and maneuvers, when we design a roundabout, this is standard across the nation, so any firm should be using this, but we do use it, just saying that when we have a speed that we're aiming for in the roundabout, that 15 to 20 miles per hour, we actually use that speed assuming someone is cutting across lanes and changing lanes to make it as quick a path as possible. So if someone stays in their lane, it's going to be even slower. But if someone was out there, there's no other vehicles, and I can just go through this thing, it's still at that speed that we want them to be at.
Right. And this is why the roundabout's shown, right? It really reduces those speeds. We have much more positive outcomes when bad things happen when we're at that 15 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour speed range. So that's a massive benefit.
With the pedestrian bike interface, going into detail here, we looked at the overall maximum crossing length and then the individual crossing lengths. So overall, the roundabout is larger than the actual intersections just because those different median breaks, but the largest individual crossing is only 30 feet. So there's kind of an exchange between the options there.
And length is not necessarily reflective of time. So as we mentioned, this is a different experience to cross a roundabout, but a roundabout is based on yielding traffic. And so typically you will actually cross a roundabout, even though it's maybe longer overall, you will cross it significantly faster than a signalized intersection where you push a button. And depending on where you are at in that signal cycle, it may be a minute before you actually get that walk signal to cross.
For the Vision Zero alignment, we've talked quite a bit about speed, median refuge islands, left turns are eliminated in a roundabout. That is a benefit. The pedestrian bike cross section, just again comparing to a no build and the improvements, actually through these last ones, that there will be increased lighting, again meeting, well, I haven't said it yet, but meeting dark sky compliance, of course. But with the additions out here, there will be more lighting.
And so just to go back to speed one last time, so we do find that compliance for yielding. So for drivers actually yielding to pedestrians or bicyclists is greatly increased when the drivers are going slow. So we see a lot, the compliance drops off when they're going 35, 40 miles an hour. They're less likely to react quickly and stop. But when they're going 15 or 20 and they see pedestrian, it's much easier and there's much higher compliance for them to actually yield to allow that crossing.
And then the last category was cost and land impacts here, that we looked at construction costs, construction delay, right-of-way acquisition. And really the build alternatives were very similar to each other, that they were very close, that they really seemed to be ranking about the same. We kept 3s across the board. And the no build cost nothing to do, so it got a 5 on this category. Ultimately, this led to our scoring, as you can see on the bottom. The roundabout scoring the 24th, the highest, and then the 6x6 and 7x7, no build. And this takes us to questions and discussions before asking you all to vote. I know it's a whole lot, but thank you for your listening. Yes.
Well, I guess the thinking that I have from listening to your presentation, as a driver, I really hate those roundabouts. I have to say that. On the other hand, from what you're saying, it sounds like they are an asset in terms of safety and in terms of probably traffic flow and keeping things moving better, and maybe even, I think one of them was reducing CO2. So it does lead me to believe that even though I don't like them, they're better for me and I should probably support them. So that's the only thing I have to say about that.
Well, again, and this gets to the point, there's you've probably heard a lot of conversation about safety and comfort, right?
Yeah.
So I think we hear this a lot. Roundabouts are not terribly comfortable. You have to be a lot more active, paying more attention to where you're going, what's happening, than you do at a signalized intersection. We see a green light, okay, I go. That may not be the safest decision, that we've got a green light, let's go.
I was in Sedona
so it's
today.
different.
There are a boatload of those roundabouts in Sedona, and not everybody understands them. You'll have people who will come to the yield section and they don't get the word yield. They decide they're going to try and push in front of you. You want to say, no, you're supposed to wait. Other people who are going in the circle and they're stopping because they're thinking the person's going to jump in front of them. So I think it's something that we haven't gotten very practiced with yet either. That's the other problem. But
So we're committed to helping with that. So we have a number of roundabouts in the pipeline, in construction, potentially in design. We've got Yale University over by Target that's under construction. We have the Fourth Lockett roundabout coming up next year in the neighborhood of a number of schools and so on. So we are committed to filling in the educational side as well. That's something that on the city side we will be working to increase community outreach, understanding, education on the proper use, both for pedestrians, both for vehicles and so on, to help close that gap, right?
I did read some research recently about the speed, and I think that was one of your first demonstrations, and that is that anything over 19 miles an hour can affect basically fatalities. When you think about all the people driving around, even in a neighborhood at 25 miles an hour, you're risking children's lives because they're going to run out in front of you and you're going to stop fast enough. So I really like the notion that it slows people down, and I would especially like the notion that it slows them down in school areas. So that's very positive, I think. And I guess, as you say, the more we have of them, the better we're going to be at doing them, using them.
All right, thanks. I have a couple questions, but I want to make sure all the other commissioners and the other people present have a chance to speak first if they choose to. Is there anyone online who would who has any questions? All right. Well, yeah. Again, thank you for being here. I do have a few questions, both about the presentation generally and about this specifically. One, if I could go back toward the beginning of the presentation, you were talking about. I mean, this is way back. You don't have to go back in the slides, but we were talking about having intersections with lights and increased accessibility options. I was wondering if you could speak for just a few moments to if there's anything other than the buttons and the lights that those are doing to help improve the conditions of those intersections for people with visual impairments. For example, is there anything on those to help people who are say using a cane to find the intersections or anything like that?
I can talk on that one. So it's also around my care about. My wife's actually an occupational therapist, so and we talk about this quite a bit. But and make sure engineers trying to do it right for the people. But so there's several different features for different users approaching. So each little piece has been kind of tailored to it. So we will have the detectable warning strip at the edge, just like any curb ramp, modern curb ramp around town. So that will indicate for a person using a cane that this is the crossing, please proceed in this direction. There's been guidance out there that you want to point that in the right direction. There's been issues with that in the past. The new pedestrian signals and push buttons, we call them. So they have quite a few features to them. That they have a flashing light for locating, for one, so you can find it with some vision impairment. They do have a locator tone, I believe, where it's kind of just that, not very loud, but you can hear it, like, to find it. There's a small kind of clicking sound. I can't remember exactly, but it does have an audible tone just anytime. It does have the tactile arrow, so you can actually feel the arrow and it points to the direction of your crossing. And they will have the delayed press, I believe it's called, or the extended press. So if any user comes up, presses it, it behaves kind of typically. If you hold it longer, it will, one, give you a message that wait to cross, something along those lines until signals are activated. But it will extend times. If we go the signal route, sorry, I guess if it's on signal, it'll have an extended crossing phase for users. With the RFBs, the flashing condition, the message it will most likely say this is all pretty new, but starting to become standard, is that signals are activated and there may be an additional, like, proceed with caution or cross with caution. And that'll be what it says. And there'll be a locator tone across the way as well.
Okay.
You will say it in English?
Yes, it will say it in English.
But not in Spanish.
That's all. That's really, and that's a lot of really cool stuff. Thank you for, thank you for that. One other question, I guess, and I guess the answer is implicit, and I want to ask it explicitly. I take it overpasses or underpasses for pedestrians are not in the budget for this project?
They're not currently in the budget. It is something we have discussed, and we haven't made any decisions on it. We do have as you're familiar, this is downstream of the museum fire and some other washes, so there is the crossing there. And if you go through this regularly, you know that this can flood at different times. So that entire intersection will be raised 6 to 7 feet to bring it up out of the floodway so that it does not flood. It does present an opportunity at least to do kind of a diagonal crossing that would kind of parallel that stormwater. No decisions have been made. While those are nice separated facilities, it can be challenging to get people into them. We've got 4th Street, you've got that big hill coming down, and getting an accessible path from that grade down into that underpassing can be challenging. So it's not off the table. I think it will be a topic of conversation as we continue.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess the last one is a point. I don't know, from my personal perspective, like I look at some of the, I don't always have it.
You're not a traffic engineer?
Well, also I'm not somebody that always has the easiest time with directions. And from my personal perspective, like, I can see comfort-wise, if you have like a 2 or a 4 lane road, just stopping and going is a lot easier. But from my personal perspective, if you're having like a 5 or a 6 lane road, I don't know, mentally I have an easier time parsing a roundabout than parsing, okay, so which lane do I actually have to be in to get where I'm going? So I don't know, that's just my perspective on things. But, all right, I think that's all the questions that I have. Are there any other questions or comments that other commissioners have thought of in the last few moments.
One question, you talked, excuse me, I had allergies. You talked about a town hall. Is the town hall going to be similar presentation so people can?
Yes, it will be very similar to this. Yep, it will be held at the Aquaplex, probably 5:30 to 7 p.m. on October 18th, which is a Wednesday, and that will be in person only. So, if there are no other questions, we would really like
Mr.
to.
Chair, Jeremy, this is Vice Mayor Austin. I have a quick question for you.
Of course, Vice Mayor.
I'm thinking back to the right turns only for trucks. And this is kind of an obvious question, but I'm guessing that roundabout's going to be engineered large enough for even, the wayward, very large or maybe double hitch trucks to get through there. I'm picturing in my mind there's a roundabout in Camp Verde where trucks have to leave the gas station, and I think they can only turn right. It's a fairly large roundabout, and I'm guessing it's big enough so that those trucks can do those maneuverings. I mean, obviously, you guys have thought of this engineering-wise. I'm not even sure why I'm presuming to bring it up. It seems like by default, of course, you got this one in the bag, but just wonder if you could comment on some of the larger trucks that can go through there and any contingencies that you thought through during that process.
Well, I think that is one of the roundabouts that would have been designed under the previous laws, which would have been trucks maintaining a lane. I'm not familiar with the lane configuration out there, but this new guidance will allow us to keep that radius or diameter significantly smaller.
Yes. So to add on that real quick, that one, we'll be able to help keep the roundabout smaller with the new law, assuming that trucks can take both lanes. With even a normal truck and even larger ones, roundabouts incorporate a truck apron on the middle. So it's a mountable, basically looks like a sidewalk, but doesn't connect anywhere to a sidewalk. It's just a concrete pad. And that allows for over-tracking of the trailer. So that will be designed in there, that an extra feature to it. We've been working very closely with Sinclair Little America and trying to look at what traffic they do have. Us as a company, we greatly enjoy looking at the different vehicles. That construction equipment trailers perform differently. They often cut curbs, so that's something we take into account. And we had a recent project actually with ADOT with a heavy hauler company. I won't name them, I guess, to say specific, but they are the 18 or 19 axle configuration trucks that haul the heavy equipment out. And I can't remember exactly how long it was, but I think it was 180, 200 feet long. We had to design a roundabout for them. So we enjoy taking a look at the specific vehicles. On this one, we're primarily looking at interstate traffic, and there will be consideration to make sure that they can make it safely and not cause an issue for maintenance staff as well.
I have no doubt, but thanks for creating some space just to talk that through a little bit more. I do realize now definitively that roundabout is designed to be a little bit smaller in spite of allowing for all of those variety of vehicles. And I appreciate the thought that went into that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Aslan. All right, I believe Commissioner Walkowinski had a question.
I just have a quick question. It looks like you did quite a bit of scenario analysis. You said you had like 76 different variables or something that you analyzed, and you had these 11 project scenarios that you looked at. Is there anywhere we can access those or look at them, or do you have a document with some of the other scenarios you evaluated? Or are you just presenting these top 3 options?
So the very, very detailed level review only occurred with the 3 final and the no build. We did selected other criteria for the first cut. So it was kind of a 2-tiered approach that we used less criteria on more of them to take them to the more detailed review. So that's part of it. It still was multiple factor in there. It was vehicle delay. I think we did look at emissions as part of it too, but looked at head bike safety and comfort. That was an early one that was pulled across all 7 of them. I can't remember off the top of my head the other few.
Yeah, so they generally range between what you've seen today. So like from a 5x5 to a 7x7, from a 2x2 roundabout to the 2x2 with the right turn lanes. So they're kind of like iterations in between of the, hey, if we add a lane here or we subtract a lane, a lot of those weren't there. I suspect that would be able to be shared. It's just it's a report that we have that will kind of give you the detail of what was looked at.
Thanks. Is there anything else, other questions or comments from commissioners, either in person or online?
So if there isn't, this is where we would like to just quickly go around, and I think we'll ask you individually to give your own personal ranking and any comments that you'd like to accompany that. And this will all kind of get into our summary that we compile from all the different commissions and committees that we visit with when we get to city council to make the decision about what this project will look like moving forward.
I don't suppose you have a slide that shows the visualizations of the different intersections.
I can go back to them real quick for a moment if you'd all like.
I would like to see where this is actually physically gonna be. When you talk about leaving the Sinclair gas station and going down the road and then hitting a roundabout, I'd like to kind of see where that roundabout's gonna hit.
So there's 2 roundabouts. So one is going to be Harold Ranch Road, where that comes in. So Harold Ranch Road right now comes in at an angle, and it kind of comes in there along that frontage of Black Bart's.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with Black Bart's,
Yeah.
Harold Ranch will get straightened out and will come into the eastern end of Black Bart's. I don't know if I'm going to pull up. So it will kind of line up with that.
Okay.
There's Woodshire, which is that new development. It will basically come in right adjacent to that.
Okay.
So that will be the roundabout that will allow for truck U-turns
Okay.
and so on. Obviously, the intersection that we're asking you to rank is the Butler Avenue and 4th Street intersection.
Okay.
So that is
Which is
that.
further down the road, so it's not the one that we worry too much about, the semi trucks.
It's still a truck route.
Okay.
It's still a truck route, so we have to provide accommodations for
Yes.
them to be able to get through it. But it's a different,
I mean, when you had said that they are going to have to turn right and they're going to a roundabout, I mean, I envision people driving home from work and they're going down that road and they're gonna run into semi trucks that are gonna be doing all kinds of roundabout questions, and that concerned me. That was the only thing, and I'm sure I'm misreading the whole problem, so that's my concern.
So with that, passenger vehicles will still be interacting with the trucks.
Right.
Merging in.
Which
being
they do
behind
now,
them.
yeah.
They just won't have to worry as much about cutting across to the
Okay.
left. That's what we're trying to mitigate, is those
Okay.
jumping all the way across Butler.
Thank you.
I know it's hard to see my cursor, but this is approximately where the Butler Herald roundabout will be.
Uh-huh.
Again, kind of at that east property line of the Black Bart's RV park.
so the right side of that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And then where the temporary signals are hanging on the cables today is where we're looking at the
Okay.
alternative.
Yeah, so those are the alternatives that we're asking you to rank is at the Butler 4th intersection.
Okay, and that's the place that if you were to continue down that road and turn left, you'd see Sonoma High School. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the future is that the 4th Street will continue south,
Yes.
probably within the next 5 to 10 years.
And
That
that's-
will connect over to Pine Canyon, the J.W. Powell
Right.
corridor.
Right.
So this frankly is the future growth of
So
Flagstaff.
it's probably a positive thing to think ahead about this and get started on that now, as opposed to waiting for there to be massive traffic issues there.
Correct, and that's one of the challenges we have, right? We're trying to do our
Think
best to accommodate that future growth and development at the same time, to not just automatically overbuild.
Well, I'm
So
glad you said it's 10 years away. I thought it was in a couple of years. I was concerned.
So based on what you just said about, this is going to grow, there's going to be more traffic passing through this intersection. So can a roundabout handle the capacity of a major intersection in the same way that a 7x7 intersection can?
Short answer is yes, it can handle that. There are limits, right? I'm sure you're
And
familiar.
I've seen the ones like in England and, these gigantic roundabouts where there's like 4 lanes, but I mean, is that what we're talking about to accommodate a lot of traffic? Is
No.
just larger roundabouts?
It's
Or
what-
this
it's-
2-lane roundabout can?
The 2-lane with right turn,
Mhm.
right turns will accommodate that future growth through 2045 as it's currently modeled. So
That's interesting.
any intersection at some point breaks down, right? I mean, that's the reason why we can't at this time, and we'll continue to investigate, but we can't go with the 5x5 because it will not function acceptably based on our current engineering standards.
All right, so we are running out of time for this agenda item, and I would like to, I would like you to have time to get our feedback. So maybe let's, and just to be clear, you want each of our individual opinions rather than a vote, correct?
So my colleague down in our Phoenix office, Eileen, she'll be calling out the names from the attendance at the start. And we'd like to get each individual member, commissioner's rank, and then comments to accommodate or accompany your rank. And it is contrary to these points here, but we would like you to rank first, second, third, fourth, first being best.
Okay.
So Eileen, are you all prepared, or is it all right if we start calling out names?
Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead, Eileen. Thank you.
Okay. Starting with Kevin White.
I think my first choice would be the roundabout. My first rank would be the roundabout. I don't remember clearly in all respects the differences between the 6 and 7 lane signalized, but I think by default I would go for the 6 lane over this. 6 lane as the second choice, 7 lane as the third choice, and then I guess no build as the fourth choice.
Okay. Is Priscilla online?
I don't believe Priscilla's in attendance.
She might have hopped on. I believe she is on now.
Is there someone hopping out there?
Priscilla, Commissioner Boateng, can you hear us and would you like to provide your rankings?
I guess it does, yeah, it does have her on the lower right.
Well, we can come back.
She has her initials there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can try.
Okay. Next up is Commissioner Conkle.
Thanks. My first choice is the 2x2 roundabout. Second is the 6x6, and then third is the 7x7.
Okay. Is the no build your fourth?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought we were
Okay.
doing top 3.
All good. Next up we have Commissioner McCormick.
She's not here.
Okay. Commissioner Metzger.
My advocacy would be for 2x2 roundabout as first choice, 6x6 signalized intersection as second choice, 7x7 signalized intersection as third choice, and no build would be the fourth choice.
Okay. Then next up is Commissioner Walkowinski.
Hi, I would put the roundabout ranked first because of safety, and the 6x6 second because of the pedestrian and bike circulation, and then 7x7 would be the third because no build is really not an option.
Okay. So Priscilla, it looks like you're unmuted now. Do you like to rank?
Yeah, can you all hear me? Sorry, I was
Yes.
talking, but no one could hear me. Yeah, I'll do the 2x2 as the first. Second would be the 6x6. Third, 7x7, and then no build as a fourth.
Okay, thank you.
And just to double check, Commissioner Quarshi is not online? I don't believe so. All right, I think that's everyone then.
Thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank
Yes, we appreciate your time. We encourage you to stay engaged in this process. Like I said, you're welcome to show up at any of the additional commissions, town hall, or at city council. We appreciate your participation. We look forward to improving this corridor for our community. So thank you for your participation.
Thank you for all the work
Thank you for
you've
yours
put
and
into
for your
it.
work.
And thank you for your concern about safety. I really appreciate that.
All right, well,
Nobody mentioned money anywhere.
all right, well, next up is, thank you so much for your patience. Next up is downtown vision and action plan update.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I learned a lot.
thank you very much for being here. I believe, again, forgive me if I mispronounce anyone's names. We have Dave McIntyre, who is the Community Investment Director, and Terry Wadecka.
Good.
Who is I guess, with the Flagstaff Downtown Business Alliance.
Thank you.
So Dave and, oh, do you want to sit here?
Sure. I just need to connect, right?
Yeah. All right, so.
One moment, actually.
Yeah, as soon as you're ready, Dave and Terry, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Oh, nice. That is magic. Well, good, I guess, evening, and thank you for having us. My name is Terry Medexa. Thank you, Chair, for the introduction. And I am here with Dave McIntyre, who is city staff. He's the Community Investment Director. Together with Dave and Michelle McNulty from the city's planning department, we have been working very hard on creating a downtown vision and action plan, which we've never seen before for downtown. The city has done plans. There have been city-led neighborhood plans. There's the regional plan, but we haven't seen something for downtown ever. And so we're really excited to share this process with you. I will say that at the beginning, we've started this a long time ago. We started this about 3 years ago. COVID sort of sidelined us for a little bit, but we are back. And so when we go through this, you may see language that is a little out of date. We are just in the process of updating the plan, which is why we're here today. We want to make sure we can get your feedback and your input to the consultants now while they're revising and updating the plan. And so everybody from the city, the county, our neighborhood partners, the residents of Flagstaff have a chance to weigh in on this now before we come up with a more current draft. We want to get that input. So I'll point out where some of the language is a little out of date, but do understand we're updating it now.
Work in progress.
It is. So before I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, in fact, you're the first commission to see it, so.
You are.
Yeah.
You are.
All new. Sorry, thanks.
Yeah, so what I thought I would do is at least give you a little introduction about who the Downtown Business Alliance is and how we're funded. We are not a city department. We are a separate entity. We are a nonprofit. We're a 501c6. And we are funded by a taxing district. It's the only one in the entire city of Flagstaff where the property owners pay a tax above and beyond their property taxes that goes towards delivering enhanced services for downtown. So if you walk around downtown and you wonder, well, gosh, I don't see graffiti, or I don't see a lot of trash littering the sidewalks, or who's putting on all those events? You know, Heritage Square is activated, who's doing that? That would be the work of the Downtown Business Alliance, funded by our property owners. And so the taxing district was actually petitioned by property owners. You can see the map, it's primarily on the north side. At the time, we tried to look at the entirety of downtown. At the time, 10 years ago, property owners on the south side were not ready to pay that additional tax. They said, no, thank you. And so that is how we got the district primarily on the north side. Those property owners said, yes, we're willing to pay. And so the taxing district was formed that way. So over 9 years, we're about ready to enter our 10th year. That taxing district, funded by those property owners, has contributed more than $1.2 million into the reinvestment of downtown. So it's significant. And the Downtown Business Alliance, so where the taxing district is a quasi-governmental entity that is allowed to tax, the Downtown Business Alliance, we are the public-facing nonprofit entity. So the taxing district contracts with the DBA to deliver those services. And some of the services we provide, we have a Clean Team Ambassador program. They're a uniform team that works 7 days a week picking up trash, removing graffiti, making sure our public spaces look really good. Those wonderful trash recycling bins that are downtown that the city, together with sustainability, put out, we're the ones who help maintain them. We keep the lids clean. We make sure people are putting trash where trash belongs, recycling where recycling belongs. So we work hard with our city partners to make sure our public spaces are maintained and welcoming for our residents and visitors. We work hard to promote downtown. So where the taxing district has a legally defined boundary, the DBA is public facing, and we work with the entirety of downtown, north side, south side. I feel if you were to ask 10 members of the public define downtown, all 10 would have different, different descriptions, but almost all would include south side as downtown. There are no magical walls and fences that define the taxing district that are in place. That's really behind the scenes. So DBA promotes the entirety. We have 180 small businesses, north and south side. We work closely with all of our businesses. The only thing we can't do is spend those taxing district resources on the south side. So if you wonder, well, why are you putting on movies on the square on the north side? That's because those events are supported by taxing district dollars. The Clean Team is on the north side because they're supported by taxing district dollars. And that will play into this a little bit more when we talk about the downtown vision.
Is there availability for people on the south side if they wanted to change their minds? I realized when you got started, they were like, this isn't a good plan, but now they see good things.
Absolutely. I think that's what's happening right now is after 10 years, there are businesses and property owners on the south side that are looking at the north side saying, I want that. How do you have all of those holiday lights and decorations and all that, all those events and activities in Heritage Square? We want some of that. And so those conversations are happening right now. What it would entail is a separate district. We can't expand the district under the state. It's a ARS, so it's a state law. But what we would do is work with those property owners and businesses to see where there's support for a new district. And we think the timing is right for that to happen. So those conversations are happening now, and I appreciate the question. And we would love to see the DBA able to sort of do more and generate more activity on the south side by being able to have the resources to do that. One of the examples I love to share is before the taxing district, so 10 years ago, there were 15 events that took place in downtown. Movies on the Square was it. This year, so it's been 9 years, this year we have more than 160 free family-friendly events. And the reason I stress this, especially with this commission, is what we're doing is we're offering our residents and our visitors free family fun. It's all ages, but really what we're doing is we're activating public spaces. So we're taking Heritage Square, which would otherwise be a bricked, empty space, and we're filling it with activity, and we're inviting people to spend their time filling these public spaces. I think that's really important as we get into the downtown vision. One of our top priorities is to see downtown considered for residential development. So for us to attract residents that want to live downtown, we believe we need to have a welcoming, walkable, community-oriented environment for them. And so activating these public spaces, I think, is key. You know, which comes first, the resident or the great environment? I think the environment needs to be there for the development, the investment, and then the people who want to say, yes, I want to live there. So we're doing it. The DBA has been a loud and vocal proponent to see a walkable downtown and a pleasant downtown. That goes back to that clean and safe environment that our clean team provides. And we champion downtown as a premier destination. I have a loud voice. We work very, very closely with our city partners, with city council, to make sure downtown is top of mind. It is a great visitor destination, and we celebrate that. But we believe the time is now to begin to change how you think about downtown and begin to think of it as a place to live as well. So moving to talk a little bit about the downtown vision. This was initiated in 2018. Like I mentioned, it was a while ago. It took us some time to identify our funding partners. We have the city, the county, Mountain Line, and the DBA. We are all funding partners. So where the city and the county and Mountain Line are our partners, this really is an effort that is led by downtown. And it's sort of a different process than most city-led neighborhood plans. And I think that's an important distinction for you to consider as we go through this. The DBA issued a competitive RFP to seek consultants that specialize in downtown. We got a lot of responses where they were typical planners, but we really wanted to find somebody that was an expert in creating vibrant downtowns. And so we ended up choosing a group called Progressive Urban Management Associates. They partnered with Studio Seed and Charlier Associates. Yeah.
It looks like Charlier or Charlier.
I'm not going to read through this in great detail, but I do want to point out a few of the objectives. The first one is the consultant team did a market-based vision, which has never been done before for downtown. So what I mean by that is we want downtown to evolve with intention. Right now, projects, they are just happening. Someone wants to build something, they build it. And the private sector gets to do that, I understand. But we would like to have information that says, here's what downtown needs. We might need housing. We might want jobs. We might want hotel rooms. We don't know that. We have not done a market-based assessment for downtown ever. So this plan accomplishes that. We also want to identify opportunities for where there could be housing. You might look at downtown, and again, I think a lot of people look at downtown as a visitor destination, which it is. But when you begin to take a different look at it, how do you have a thriving, vibrant downtown? You want residents that live here that can walk places. right now we're relying on residents from University Heights or from the East Side or from off of 4th Street to drive into downtown to park and to walk. And we want that to continue. I love that. But when you think of the most successful cities across the world, there are people who are living in that downtown walking places. And those residents support those small businesses. So the shoulder season for those small businesses, it's not as impactful because you have that residential base that's walking or biking to support those businesses. So we have to look at downtown, I think, through a different lens and begin to look at parcels that are either surface parking lots today or might be underdeveloped, and think, could that be housing? Would that be a great place to see some type of housing product? Or could we do something that's mixed use? Could we have housing? Could we have some jobs? Could we have ground floor retail? Filling what today is a vacant space. So as we go through this, do try to look at downtown through a different lens than you look at it today. We definitely are committed to tying into the carbon neutrality plan, the 10-year housing plan, and the Downtown Connection Center. We feel successful downtowns, again, you are going to hear this a lot. It's walkable, it's bikeable, we tie into public transit. It checks the boxes. We add to the housing inventory. We tie into carbon neutrality goals by getting people out of their cars in developing where there might otherwise be surface parking lots. And we get people getting around using either their feet, their bike, it could be a scooter, it could be a lot of other things other than a car. We focus on public space activation. I think you'll see that throughout the document. And we really want meaningful engagement, which is partially why we're here, is to hear from you. I mean, there's many more, but I wanted to highlight our priorities. So a guiding principle of us is to be bold. I think right now, when I hear people talking about housing, I hear it as housing throughout the community. And I hear that downtown, again, is a place for visitors and it's historic and we want to leave it the way it is. And so I think we need to take steps now to think about downtown of the future. And instead of having projects happening to us, we want to be influential and part of being being asked to be part of creating the downtown of the future. So instead of having things that happen to us, we want it to happen with us. And this plan, I think, gives us that voice. And by the time it's done, it should be a unified voice. We have the city, the county, Mountain Line, input from our commissions, input from residents, neighborhood groups. We should have a unified voice of what we want to see downtown in the next 5-10 years. We did have our consultants review existing plans. So the carbon neutrality plan, Southside community plan. At the time, it was the current regional plan, but we are plugged into the process for the regional plan 2045. So those conversations are happening now. And we are tied into the Park Flag Comprehensive Plan. I think that while I'd love to see some of these surface parking lots develop, at this time, parking is a tool for investment. People aren't going to bring jobs or bring housing downtown when we are woefully short of having any kind of available parking. So it does work closely with Park Flag. And then we highlight some catalytic opportunity sites where you get to be creative and, again, look through that different lens to think about, well, what could that Chase Bank site look like if it wasn't a bank surrounded by asphalt? You know, we're having some fun being creative. I mentioned that COVID sort of steered us in the wrong way. I think there are some benefits, though, to the delay we faced. One is it forced us to be really creative in how we use our public spaces. I don't know if you were downtown at all during COVID, but we actually took a traffic lane out of Aspen. We closed that to bicycle and pedestrian traffic, and then we allowed the restaurants to expand their outdoor dining into the street. And so we had a downtown diner at the time, the sweet shop, they all had outdoor dining. So it taught us, we need to be creative, we need to be quick, and we learned a lot of great lessons. People want to be outdoors. And so even though Aspen is back open, we have parklets now. Pay and Take has a wonderful parklet that takes place in a parking space on Aspen. They have outdoor seating in that parklet. We have more sidewalk dining. In Heritage Square, it looks completely different. We have gazebos, we have extra seating, we have bistro tables. We now close Aspen Alley, which is a more pedestrian walkway. There's planters with flowers and more outdoor dining. So COVID was unfortunate for public health, but it did teach us some lessons about being creative and how we use our public spaces. And those lessons are in place today. I mentioned Aspen Alley and the extended dining. Those are, while Aspen doesn't have the extended dining, we still see more opportunities, including Aspen Alley. So during COVID, we did have a few meetings outdoors, but what we did want to do is engage the public, and so we issued an online survey. And we had some great response. We had just over 1,200 responses. It is 3 years old. However, I think the responses are significant, and my guess is they hold true today. Even 3 years later, I would think that the top 3 would still be our residents' preferred priorities. So maintaining the historic character of downtown, making downtown more walkable and bikeable, and improving the parking experience. And that doesn't necessarily mean adding a ton of parking, but what it means is finding another way, instead of having employees park all day in downtown, making our customers circle and circle and circle. It means find a dedicated place for employee parking, free up that curb space for customer parking, making it more convenient, and then making the experience better. So we will do a more current survey to see, but I'm guessing these results will be primarily the same. So this tells you a little bit more about the words that we heard on that survey. And then again, the key policy recommendations from 3 years ago, some of the language is out of date, especially in the 3rd bullet point where it refers to the climate action plan. That will be updated to carbon neutrality plan. The 4th bullet point, I think this is interesting. It talks about gentle density. I think 3, 4, 5 years ago, that's where the community stood, was not, this was like right after the hub was built. And we heard a lot about, you don't want to see big giant projects that are plopped down in an environment where it doesn't fit. And so gentle density was what we came up with then. What we're hearing now is there's a housing crisis, there's a need for, there's a climate emergency. We need downtown to be a place that we address those emergencies with housing and getting people out of cars. And so both the 3rd and the 4th bullet point will be updated, but you know, in a way, that 3-year delay in the downtown vision is benefiting us because I think the community is more willing to be bold in terms of what we see developed in downtown. So I think you'll see some changes with this once we get our revised version.
Terry, real quick, just so you know, we have about another 4 minutes for this agenda item.
Oh, I can go really, really quick.
Thanks.
You know, downtown's gonna be a place to live, work, shop, dine, and stay. So what I do think is important though is as much as we want to tie into housing and mobility, economic vitality is important. I think our business community is fragile. Like I said, we have 180 small, mostly locally owned businesses. We don't have chains. So we do need a dedicated effort to support them. This plan does position downtown as a premier destination for investment. So developers to build the housing, it might be mixed use. We want to see more jobs brought into downtown. We love the idea of more arts and culture. We think that is foundational to making downtown a great place to be and supporting our small businesses however we can. This is where it gets fun. Thinking about the catalytic opportunity sites, I'm going to point out just a few. You see many that are listed here, but think about where Chase Bank is located today on Birch. You have one block that is Chase Bank, and next to that is National Bank. So you have 2 blocks, one next to the other, with a big building for a bank, and you know they don't, you know, operate that way anymore. They need an ATM to do your business, surrounded by asphalt and parking. We propose that those sites develop as housing. It would be wonderful. There's no conflict with historic preservation. These were buildings built in the 80s. They're not historic in any way. They are on the periphery of downtown, but not yet impacting any neighborhood. So it's still in the commercial business core. It doesn't impact really anything. It could be wonderful to see some housing built there. There's another surface parking lot where the former municipal courthouse once stood at Aspen and Beaver. We think that is a prime location for a mixed-use development. It does not belong as a surface parking lot in the core of our downtown. Mixed-use development all the way.
For the record, the city agrees with that too, so, you know, we're aligned.
Downtown experience, we want to maintain our historic charm and our character. We want to have a wonderful street presence and walkability. Sustainability is a core value in how our downtown is managed, improved, and developed. We are tied into the Downtown Connection Center, public transit. Mountain Line is a funding partner, so we're working side by side with them. This action plan does have implementation and funding strategies. They're still being developed, so I don't have the answer of how we will implement, but the consultant team will provide that to us. We are seeking feedback now. We do go to City Council for a work session conversation in October, and then we hope to come back to Council for final plan approval in November. I will say though, if we are not able to do a robust enough job of getting community feedback, this timeline may shift. It's more important for us to hear from the community than it is to get this shoved down people's throats.
I have a question that's really, I'm sorry, I feel like it's going to take you completely off the direction, and I
That's
apologize
okay.
for that. Because you did mention the hub, and I don't think the hub really is in the downtown, is that correct?
It is in the broader downtown. It is not in the taxing
Let's
district.
take the broader downtown up to the hospital.
Mhm.
So if that hospital moves, is
Mhm.
there some, I've heard that there's been some language that the hospital can't be used for anything medical, and they're talking about, we don't know what we're gonna do with it. Is that something you're setting your sights on, looking at for possible living spaces and development that would extend that city community up the hill to even a better environment? So you have-
It's
is
a
that part of
great
your
question.
vision?
It's a great question. So the hospital is not directly connected to the downtown core.
Right.
However, to your point, we really want to try to influence, if that move takes place,
Yes.
we
know.
want
Yeah.
to be able to influence how that site redevelops and make sure not only is it meeting what the community wants, but there might be potential for it to connect in an even more impactful way to downtown. Today, it really doesn't. I don't see a lot of doctors and nurses and certainly families visiting their loved ones in the hospitals. They're not coming downtown for lunch.
No.
Um,
It's a little bit of a distance. There's
It's-
that gap between the hospital and.
that
but it might
connection's
have
not there.
Some potential. That's what I was thinking.
And we are aligned with that. That is our hope. We don't really address it a lot currently because there's a outstanding vote. But if that move takes place, we are hoping to make that connection even stronger. Thank you.
All right, thank you both very much.
It's very interesting.
So we are running short on time. Are there any commissioners that have urgent questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to say that I really am pleased to see how you're thinking and to see that you've gotten a really strong, it sounds like, consultant in to help work on this, because that mixed-use compact development is the path to sustainable urban areas and development. And so that's exciting to me as a Flagstaff resident.
I think it would be nice to give some people who live in those houses off the city area, like awards. Those houses are just gorgeous, some of those little community things with the little garden things. Somebody should give them little awards or, like something that says, one of Flagstaff's #1 or something like that, I don't know.
All right, let's move on. Thank you both very much.
Can I just, real quickly, if I may, I just want to say hi to Terry and to David. Really
Hi, Vice
appreciate all you do. Hi there. Just very grateful for the relationship that we've garnered over the years, and the partnerships that we're involved in. Really looking forward to being with the two of you in Chicago this next week to learn more about how to do all this wonderfully. And it's great to see you at the Sustainability Commission. I thought that was an excellent presentation. Job well done.
Thank you. Thanks, Vice Mayor.
All right, so yeah, we're running very short on time. So I'm gonna try to prioritize our next steps. Now, Adoption Avenue, I'm hoping will only take a few seconds. Because I think we can just vote on continuing our adoption of our current avenue, which is Aspen, just south of this building.
Oh, we have Aspen, okay.
Yeah. So I would like to move, given where we are in time, in the future, we can, decide if we want to adopt a stream or adopt something else. But I would like to move that for the next year, we continue to adopt an avenue as, that we continue to adopt an avenue as we have been. And Tia, Tia wouldn't necessarily be joining us in the cleaning of litter, but you had volunteered before, if I remember right, to send out a doodle poll to try to figure out the best times for us to do that.
Yeah, correct. We were little green vests.
Okay.
Don't get run over by people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I would like to move that we continue to adopt our current avenue and that Tia is authorized to send out a poll to the commissioners to figure out the best times for us to do that. Can we have a second on that motion? Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Metzger. Is there any discussion on the vote? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you all. I think the next in order of priority is Neighborhood Sustainability Grant, updated next steps. And I'll try to keep this fairly quick. It should take well under 10 minutes. So basically, if my memory serves, the deadline for us to receive grants is the end of this month, so in just a couple days. After we receive all of the applications, Tia will be, so we will be random, each of us will be randomly assigned, each of us will be randomly assigned applications such that each application is read by at least 3 commissioners. If you would like to read all of the other option is if you would like to read all of the applications, then please let Tia know, and then she will send you all of the applications so that you can score all of them. Commissioner McCormick made a very nice spreadsheet for us to use for the purposes of scoring, which I think for the most part we will use. I am asking Tia to maybe just, I'm not an expert in spreadsheets. I am asking Tia if she could run that spreadsheet maybe by somebody in the city sustainability section who is an expert in spreadsheets, and see if they have any minor modifications to use. But I think the current plan is just to use a spreadsheet that Commissioner McCormick made. And while she's not here, I do want to enter into the record that I do thank Commissioner McCormick for her work on that. Generally, you'll have a little over a month to score. You'll have a little over a month to score these these applications. After you have time to look at them, you will be given a deadline to forward questions about the applications to the applicants, so that if there's anything that you would like cleared up in order to make an informed decision, there will be an opportunity to do that, and there will be an opportunity to answer. The final scores will be submitted before our November/December meeting, and I believe the current plan is to have any needed discussions during the November/December meeting, and to award grants during that meeting, and that will be done by vote. And as discussed earlier, if all goes according to plan, we will discuss the applicants that are on the borderline between being funded and not, and if there are any other with the applicants that are well above and below that cutoff, if there are any things that need discussion about those applications, then we can discuss that as well. We will try very hard to keep that commission meeting at 2 hours, but among our commission meetings of the year, I think that one has the potential to run late the most. So again, I will try very hard to keep it at 2. We will try very hard to keep it at 2 hours, but maybe avoid making appointments for right at 6:30. I think we might have to punt on vice chair elections again.
Yes. We don't have enough people here to really talk about what they want to be.
Yeah, which is also an excellent point. It might be good to do that during a meeting that we have more than just barely a quorum. So I would like to bring this to a vote, though. I would like to make a motion to table vice chair elections for a second time to next month. Can we have a second on that? Okay, so Commissioner Walkowinski seconds the motion. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I just wanted to highlight that we did get confirmation that Chair White can stay on for sure. There'll be no appointment processes until after the grant cycle ends and the new chair, so that helps us with stability as well.
Yeah. Which my understanding will be at least until January.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Nicole and Tia, I do want to discuss a few things pertinent to that with you. I'll email you to make appointments if it's okay.
Of course.
Okay, so seeing no further discussion, all in favor of tabling vice chair elections until next month, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed,
Aye.
please say. Thank you. All opposed, please say no. The motion passes. Vice chair elections are tabled a second time until next month. Thank you all for your patience with that. It's been a very packed and very interesting couple of meetings. All of it, every minute of it worthwhile. So thank you for your patience again with that. Is there any to and from?
There's a couple upcoming sustainability office events. This is just a couple of them. Hopefully you all are on our newsletter as well, but if you let me know. So we're having a drop-off day on October 28th and then a fix-and clinic on November 4th.
It's a drop-off day, the drug drop-off day.
Yes, and yeah, all kind of
Household hazardous waste.
hazardous waste.
When I was in Tucson, we had hazardous waste drop-offs every other Saturday.
Wow. Well, we do have a hazardous product center that's always open.
Yes, that's really good.
All right, thank you very much, Tia. Is there any other to and from?
I apologize for coughing so much. I've got an allergy that's sticking. Stop it.
Oh, hi, Tia, you mentioned this Commissioner Conkle, did Commissioner Conkle, she left, okay.
Yes.
That's okay, she probably does have an appointment right at 6:30. Last thing, I know we're a couple minutes late, are there any future agenda item requests?
If somebody has an idea, and I don't have one, but if I had one, could I forward it to you and that would be possibly put on the agenda, or does it have to be discussed in the open meeting for it to be on the agenda?
If you think of something, yeah, so the question is that either are acceptable. You are allowed to, it is perfectly acceptable to email Tia. So the best practice is to email just to stay in line with open meeting laws, email Tia and then she'll forward it to me. It's perfectly acceptable to do that if you have a request for an agenda item. That said, in order to stay in line with the best possible practices with open meeting laws, it is encouraged for you to bring those requests up during these meetings, during this agenda item. So yeah, the answer is it is acceptable for you to email Tia with agenda item requests, but it is preferred for those requests to come forward during this during the meetings. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any future requests for future agenda items? All right, seeing none, the September Sustainability Commission meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time, participation, skills, and knowledge. And I hope to see you all. In October.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Boateng.
Thank you, everyone.
So we have those maps on that, all